This is CBC Nova Scotia News.
Tonight, still waiting. Months after funding was announced, some ask where are the generators to help cope with this hurricane season? In the game, a Halifax women's hockey team is preparing for a national competition in Quebec. And tricks and treats. These pooches put on quite a display at an extreme dog stunt show.
Scattered showers and a risk of thunderstorms coming to an end this evening, and then a lovely weekend shaping up across Nova Scotia. Watching Ernesto early next week. Your full forecast is coming up.
Good evening. 2 years ago, Hurricane Fiona devastated parts of Cape Breton. And even though hurricane season is well underway now, Sydney's Centre 200 and the Glace Bay Fire Hall are still waiting for generators to be installed more than 7 months after funding was announced. The delay has some worried that the region isn't ready for the next big storm, while others are taking preparations into their own hands. The CBC's Kyle Moore explains.
Margaret Kuchma is ready for whatever weather comes her way. She spent 11 days without power during Hurricane Fiona.
We weren't prepared at all, but not only were we not prepared, I don't think CBRM was prepared, and the gas stations ran out of gas.
Kuchma says many in her community now own generators and pay closer attention to the forecast whenever severe weather is on the way.
Honestly, I'm a little more nervous, I'm a little more attentive, I'm more prepared.
The latest weather threat is Ernesto, but the hurricane's track has since shifted to the east, meaning the storm is expected to bypass Nova Scotia. That is good news for the CBRM, who are still waiting to have generators installed in some fire halls and larger centres.
With an event like Fiona, where there were so many trees down, it is important to have that backup system.
A spokesperson for the CBRM says it will be at least another year before a generator is installed at Centre 200 and more than 6 months for the Glace Bay Fire Hall. The size of the generators and the availability has delayed the process.
There is limited supply available. A lot of businesses have installed generators. A lot of institutions and facilities have installed generators.
We still get requests from things that insurance didn't cover, or they couldn't get a contractor.
Lynn McCarran is part of the Nova Scotia Guard, a new volunteer organization to help out during major emergencies created by the Houston government.
A big part of it is communication, making sure that people know where to go and what they can get where, and how we can support people that need that kind of support.
As long as the gas station doesn't run out of gas again.
Back in Glace Bay, Kuchma says she's ready for whatever Mother Nature has in store, with hurricane season well underway. Kyle Moore, CBC News, Glace Bay.
And speaking of hurricanes, where is Ernesto? Ryan Snoddon from the Weather Center with us now to talk about that.
At this hour, Tom, Ernesto bearing down on Bermuda, and Bermuda expected to see very heavy rain, strong winds, and pounding surf from that storm. And let's have a look at the latest satellite. And again, that black dot there is Bermuda. And yeah, it's going to be a rough night on the island of Bermuda tonight, no question about it. Ernesto will continue to track north, the Category 2 storm. And so, yes, impacting Bermuda tonight, and transitioning to a Category 1 as we work throughout the day tomorrow, then tracking into our neck of the woods with those Atlantic Canada waters. As you can see here, there's Nova Scotia, there's Newfoundland, there's Sable Island, that little black dot there, and it is looking more and more likely that the track of this storm is going to be south of Sable, the cone of uncertainty now south of Sable. That's good news for us, for sure. That means the strongest winds, the heaviest rain is indeed expected to be offshore for us. And Newfoundland, perhaps not so lucky. The Avalon Peninsula in particular will have to watch this one. Now, closer to home for us, and you can see before I transition on here, all those lines, that's all the different forecast models, good, lots of consistency here and lots of agreement that that track is going to remain south of Sable Island. Now for us, with a rain band ahead of Ernesto, or multiple rain bands ahead of Ernesto, that's one of the things we'll have to watch for Monday. We things could turn wet here, and this is going to be a tropical air mass, so we could see some heavier downpours on Monday as well. A lot of uncertainty with this, obviously, as Ernesto is going to swirl over the next 48 hours. Tough to say what rain bands are going to be ahead of the storm itself, but this is the potential for one of those scenarios that we could see some of those heavier downpours times on Monday. So that's one thing to keep in mind. And of course, the center of the storm, as you can see here, with the heaviest rain and the strongest winds tracking there offshore. But we perhaps will see some lingering showers even into Monday night. Now, Sunday, if you're beach going, be mindful that the higher than normal wave activity will start to occur on Sunday, and we're going to be looking at some of that pounding surf really ramping up on Monday, Tom. But beachgoers should be mindful that both Sunday and Monday, the potential for riptides is really high, so do be very safe along the coastline.
Good reminder for sure. Okay, Ryan, we'll talk later. Thanks.
Thank you.
Classes have been suspended and a stop work order has been issued by the province at the Nova Scotia Firefighters School. It comes after a health and safety audit of the school noted 22, quote, high-risk activities. The suspension also comes after a renewed push this week from the family of a Nova Scotia firefighter, Skylar Blackie. They are asking for reform at the school after learning the 28-year-old had raised concerns about equipment that ultimately led to his death. Blackie died in March of 2019 after the bottom of a rusted extinguisher blew off and struck him during a certification exam. The school says they have now hired a third-party safety organization to audit its operations. The province says the stop work order will remain in place and the activities cannot resume until compliance is achieved. 3 people are dead after 2 separate crashes on Highway 4 in less than 12 hours. Shortly after midnight this morning, RCMP say a Dodge Caravan and a Honda Pilot were traveling in opposite directions near the 4000 block of Highway 4 in Lower South River when they collided. A 58-year-old woman from Afton died at the scene, and a 41-year-old woman from Antigonish was taken to hospital where she was pronounced dead. 4 other people suffered non-life-threatening injuries. Meanwhile, yesterday afternoon, a 62-year-old Sydney man was driving a motorcycle on Highway 4 near St. Peter's. When he left the road, he was taken to hospital where he died from his injuries. The investigation into the causes of both crashes is ongoing. Mpox cases in Toronto continue to rise as the WHO declares a global health emergency. The virus has also been detected in wastewater in Newfoundland and Labrador. While this province has not had any cases recently, Nova Scotia's physician lead on the virus says health officials here remain vigilant.
We ask anybody who's suspecting that they're seeing a patient who has any Mpox symptoms to call us right away. So it's a notifiable disease, and that means we try to get that early signal if anything's happening in the community. We also set it up through our lab system. And so we've got, call it a robust surveillance system, where if anything is detected like an Mpox virus, we get that indication as well. And then what we do is we reach out to folks, we have conversations with them, try to get a sense of where did this come from? Where is it going? Who might you have been in contact with to get a sense of where exactly this came from? But again, it forms part of a routine surveillance system that is operating all the time.
I'll talk to Dr. Jesse Cansier about the Mpox virus and the threat it poses. That's our Newsmaker interview just after 6:30. The Yarmouth Regional Hospital in Nova Scotia is getting a new CT scanner. The new scanner will replace the older model that had been in service since March of 2013. The scanner combines a nuclear medicine scan and a CT scan to create a better 3D image and to identify problems in the body. The costs of the new scanner will be shared between the province and the Yarmouth Hospital Foundation. The hospital will also receive funding to support a new backup generator for the facility. An organization in Enfield that helps adults with disabilities find work and advance their education is looking to the future. They are waiting on a new building to expand their services and clientele. Meg Campbell has more.
Corridor Community Options for Adults has been housed in the old Enfield Elementary School for over 2 decades. It is the only organization in East Hants that offers recreational programs to adults with disabilities of all ages. But they've been limited from expanding due to their aging facility.
This building is at capacity in many ways. The building is older. It's served us well over the years, but it's time for a new building, a modern building.
That modern building is on the way. The CCOA are moving to their facility in the Elmsdale Business Park this fall. It's a project worth over $10 million, raised from government funds to community fundraisers.
A building where we can run all types of different programs in addition to what we do now, and we can provide service to more people, is really to eliminate our wait list.
The wait list now sits around 55 people, trying to get into their programs that offer recreational activities and employment at the organization's thrift store, Rick's Riches. The new building will allow them to be under one accessible space, something their current building wasn't. Instructor Natasha King says that is a game changer.
The building originally wasn't designed to be what it is being used for now, so we have a lot of accessibility issues even within our own building. Our new building is going to be barrier-free.
The most important factor of this new build is to offer people with disabilities a communal place to work, learn, and socialize.
It gives them a purpose to their day and a place to come and call their own and to make friends and to be social. There's a lot of other things that go along with that, but I think the social piece is really important because people feel really isolated if they don't have a group, if they don't have people to be able to talk to and sit down and have a meal with, or even have a chance to go and recreate with. It's just, it's a great place for them to come and to be able to kind of figure out who they are and who they want to be in the future.
The new building is expected to be fully operational by mid-October. Meg Campbell, CBC News, Elmsdale.
Nova Scotia families on income assistance will get more help with the cost of school supplies this year. The province is investing over $400,000 in its income assistance payment to parents of children aged 5 to 18. The benefit has also been extended this year to include 4-year-olds attending pre-primary this fall. Parents of children aged 5 to 18 will receive a one-time increase by the end of this month. The payment for children aged 13 to 18 will increase from $160 to $200. The payment for children ages 5 to 12 will increase from $80 to $100. The World Acadian Congress continues on Nova Scotia's South Shore. Acadians from all over North America are coming together to reunite, meeting old friends and making some new ones. And as Shayna Luck reports, the federal government is using the Congress as an opportunity to invite those visiting Acadians to stay.
Thousands of Acadians from around the world gathering in Nova Scotia for the first time in 20 years. This is the World Acadian Congress. It's a celebration of connection to Francophone culture, and for so many, also a family reunion, including for the Surretts.
We started to talk, and Elizabeth asked what part of the Surrett family I'm connected with, and I told her, and she said, that's her.
These long-lost cousins have just realized they share great-great-grandparents.
So how did you react when you realized that?
Well, I was very happy.
These Acadians are descendants of French speakers forced from this land almost 270 years ago by English settlers. Thousands ended up along the U.S. eastern seaboard, Louisiana and beyond. Now, Canada wants to welcome more Francophones, choosing this setting to announce measures to allow French international students to stay in Canada after graduation.
I think these are important for our national identity, or they're equally, if not more important, for the communities that are depopulating and need immigration.
Organizers expect the World Acadian Congress to attract 30,000 visitors, many of them international.
It's like a reunion. It's that we're all back together, and our ancestors know we're here, and we never forgot them.
Acadian language and culture will soon be in the hands of a new generation. An emotional thought for reunion organizer Michel Belleville.
I'm very hopeful. Just the fact that they're here means they're interested in where they come from.
The World Acadian Congress wraps up on Sunday until the next gathering, scheduled for 2029. Shayna Luck, CBC News, Bellevue's Cove, Nova Scotia.
The Halifax women's hockey team is preparing for a national seniors competition in Quebec. As the CBC's Luke Ettinger tells us, it's an opportunity to play a sport they didn't always have access to.
I get the pension check as well. Woohoo!
Wanda White is set to celebrate her 65th birthday, but still the goalie is among the youngest on her hockey team. White said she was lucky to start playing as a teen when female hockey players in Fairview petitioned to play in the 1970s.
How long it keeps going, I don't know. The body's starting to, let me know it's 65, but I'm going to play until I can. And
This month, White and her team, Nova Scotia's Zoomer Boomers, are traveling to Quebec City for the Canadian Seniors Games. They're among half a dozen women's teams competing in the 65-plus category, a first for the national event.
So we're all looking forward to it. It's all about fun, fitness, and friendship.
Team captain Marnie LeBlanc organizes the team's pickup games, an opportunity to play a sport they were often left out of.
I always wanted to play a group sport, but I didn't see an opportunity to play it, so that's the reason why I started this after I retired.
The happiness I feel when I'm playing hockey, I always wanted to, but as a young girl growing up, there wasn't any for me, so I played ringette instead. This is great. I mean, who would have thought at my age I'd still be playing hockey?
As she turns 67, Bonnie Rooney and her teammates continue to travel the province and country to play the game they love. And scoring some goals along the way. Luke Ettinger, CBC News, Dartmouth.
Dock diving, tricks, and happy dogs. It was all part of Extreme Dog Stunt Show at the Old Home Week in Charlottetown. One participant says his dog loves to do the tricks for treats. Everyone went home tired but happy after all the performances. Have a look.
I compete in a sport called dock diving with the two dogs. I just spend a lot of time working with them, teaching them tricks, teaching them different games and things just for fun. It forms a bond with the dogs and keeps them happy, and yeah, it's just something I enjoy doing. Oh yeah, they love it. They're having a ball this week. They're going home super tired, and a tired dog's a happy dog. So. Well, we feed them, we give them a lot of food treats as reward when they're doing things, just keep them interested. But a lot of it, they just enjoy doing it. It's, you know, they get a lot of enjoyment out of the activities themselves. That's what they have fun doing, and it's what I have fun doing. So Thing will be doing some tricks and just some fun stuff that I teach them just for entertainment. Probably be catching frisbee. And Berserker's going to be doing the dock diving. He usually goes over 20 feet. Yesterday, based on the judge from the audience, he actually hit 26 on one of his jumps.
So how was that?
Oh, it was so much fun. The dogs are doing great. They're having a ball. I'm having a ball. And I think everybody's really enjoying the shows.
He loves the water, right?
He loves the water. He loves his toy. And he's having so much fun.
Coming up, advocates gather in Nova Scotia to discuss the importance of land trusts in Black communities. And coming home, thousands of Jasper residents return to the wildfire-ravaged town site as re-entry begins. And of course, your weekend weather forecast is coming up with Ryan Snoddon right after the break. You would think that on a sleepy summer day, it would be quiet in the CBC Weather Center, but I would say that has not been the case for you today, Ryan.
It's been an active week.
It sure has been.
You know, keeping tabs on Ernesto, and we've had just active weather here in Nova Scotia with every day scattered pop-up showers and storms, and so we'll track those out in just a sec. And just a heads up, a warning I talked about earlier about the potential for riptides occurring as early as Sunday along the Atlantic coastline, and certainly Monday. So if you're thinking about beach going on Sunday, be mindful of that. Also, temps will be cooler on Sunday along the coast, and even tomorrow, temps with an onshore wind are going to be cooler. And the fog monster, as you can see here.
Oh, on full display there, huh?
There's Somerville. Yeah, and you can see that fog has really rolled in there over the last hour or so, and it's just been kind of lurking, you know, near the coast for a good chunk of the day there along that south shore and eastern shore. So just be mindful. If you're heading to the coast tomorrow even, it's going to be cooler along parts of the coast with those Atlantic coastline temps much cooler right now, as you will see in the forecast. Severe thunderstorm watch continues for eastern half of the mainland and for Cape Breton. And yeah, it's been an active day, no question, yet again, as we look at where those showers are firing up. Basically along the spine of Nova Scotia is where we've been seeing those showers bubbling up today, and we'll zoom in and show you. These are some of the cells that have been really raining themselves out in that cell just south of Antigonish in particular, although it is starting to weaken by the looks of things in the radar return, so some good news here. Into Cape Breton, it's been another active day across the island with showers and downpours, and all the way to the west we go, and these showers and cells that have been firing up over South Mountain, again in the last half hour or so, starting to look like they're fading away, though still dropping a lot of rain, especially on the number 8 heading south of Annapolis Royal, so just be mindful of that. As we move out and have a look at the bigger picture here, there's the area of high pressure that's generally keeping us quiet, but again, underneath that high, we've been seeing lots of storms this week. There's the trough moving into the Great Lakes. That's going to help to scoop Ernesto up and kick it out to the northeast. Temperatures tonight dropping into the 12 to 15 degree range once again. A little bit warmer right along parts of the coast. You can see the forecast model here doing a pretty good job of where those showers are right now and fizzling through this evening, becoming quiet. Note the low-level cloud and fog that will be in the mix to start the day tomorrow. It's going to take a while to get the engine revving. Once that sunshine does kick in, we'll see that fog retreating back to the coast, but perhaps lingering there tomorrow. So just be mindful that, yeah, that fog monster likely looming on the coastline. And as you will see here with your temperatures, it is going to be cooler. Widespread temps 24 to 27 across Cape Breton tomorrow. We'll see the warmest temps tomorrow with this southwest flow in the north and along that Northumberland shore, looking sweet tomorrow. Temperatures, again, along the coastline, cooler, 23 to 25. Halifax County for inland areas, but again, right along the coast, temperatures with water temperatures near 14 degrees along that Atlantic coastline. It will be cooler. South shore for sure, cooler as well into the teens. Looking at temperatures nicely warming up. And I should mention a bit of a westerly component to the Bay of Fundy tomorrow may keep temps a bit cooler in places like Halls Harbor as well. Now for Sunday, we're looking at building clouds throughout the day. Cape Breton likely staying brighter for a good chunk of the day, though some of that high cloud starting to move its way in. We should see some breaks. And as I mentioned earlier in the program, Ernesto here, but some of the initial bands of rain ahead of Ernesto are what we'll have to watch for Monday. A lot of uncertainty here on how these bands will form and how much moisture they'll have with them, but the potential for some downpours tracking in on Monday, but the heaviest rain, strongest winds will be staying offshore, though some pounding surf certainly going to be moving its way in. Just a look at this National Hurricane Center track. Again, there's Sable, south of Sable Island, and the forecast model's nicely clustered and tight, good agreement on that track. So that's some good news there. So we are keeping an eye on the downpours for Monday. Showers Tuesday, bit of a dip in temperatures through mid to next week, starting to creep up towards late next week, but a bit of cool air wrapping in behind Ernesto, Tom.
Getting to be that time of year, I suppose, too. Yeah. Okay, Ryan, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Advocates from across this province and from the U.S. gathered yesterday at the Black Cultural Center in Cherrybrook to learn more about land trusts in Black communities. The event aimed to explore how land trusts are being used throughout the world to help Black neighborhoods thrive in places like Upper Hammonds Plains, Weymouth Falls, and even far away as St. Paul, Minnesota.
I think what's happening here is a blessing to Nova Scotia because when every part of your community is strong, the province is strong.
My name is Nat Pace, and I'm the Network Director of the Canadian Network of Community Land Trusts. We're here in Nova Scotia this week to gather with some of the African Nova Scotian land trusts alongside other Black-led land trusts from Vancouver and Toronto and St. Paul, Minnesota. Nova Scotia is one of Canada's epicenters of Black grassroots organizing and activism, and it's so clearly reflected by all the community land trust projects that are happening here. We're working with so many different African Nova Scotian community land trusts here in Upper Hammonds Plains, in Truro, in Weymouth Falls. There's also another emerging community land trust in North End Halifax, the New Roots Community Land Trust, which is responding in part to the redevelopment of the Cogswell Interchange. I'm hoping that this event is going to generate more awareness in the local community of what community land trusts are and what they're capable of. This is not just a pie in the sky vision, but an actual reality that is possible and demonstrated.
My name is Makia Griffin. I'm the Executive Director of Rondo Community Land Trust. I'm here today because I believe the longevity and the success of community land trust in the United States is most definitely something that can and has been and will continue to be successful here in Canada. And I'm really passionate about ensuring that this model is used as many places as it possibly can be.
Hi, my name is Reverend Dr. Denise Gallard. I am the Vice Chair of Down the Marsh Community Land Trust from Truro. It's essential for our future well-being, and I think community land trusts are key in that kind of development. There is something about Nova Scotians as a people that know how to work hard and work together. I feel like anything is possible. We got this. The main message that I have has to do with youth and young people. If we can engage young adults in leadership and even look at youth beyond, because many young people don't even feel that they could ever have a home and they're losing hope. But if we have young adults who are creating and have a say and are doing things in an innovative, powerful way, then generations from now, our families will be well off, stronger, and have a lot to celebrate.
Up next, I'll talk with Dr. Jesse Cansier about the risk of the Mpox virus in this province. That is our Newsmaker interview. Stay with us. You're watching CBC Nova Scotia News. A spike in reported Mpox cases this summer has public health officials concerned, including here in Canada. This week, the World Health Organization named Mpox a public health emergency for the second time in 2 years. Dr. Jesse Cansier is a regional medical officer of health and Nova Scotia's public health physician lead for Mpox. Sir, to begin with, what is Mpox and what's new about it this year?
Yeah, so Mpox is part of a class of diseases we call pox diseases. They're characterized by these skin lesions that people get. Mpox specifically causes these small rubbery lesions that'll develop on the skin, usually where someone's been in contact with someone else who's been infected. And over the course of a few weeks, these crust over, fall off. It's a painful disease. In the cases we've been seeing in Canada over the past few years, have not led to any deaths. But for some pox diseases, it can happen. I think what's a bit different with what we're seeing right now is that this week there's been two signals about Mpox. And so Nova Scotians would have heard about something in Toronto and then something happening in Africa that causes public health emergency of international concern. I think the important thing to know with that is that they're two separate, unrelated events. And so we're seeing this large outbreak in Africa in places that we don't normally see it, in levels that we don't normally see it, and it's causing some concern. And that's what the WHO has come out and signaled about. And then separately this week, Toronto Public Health came out and said that they've been seeing an increase in the cases that they've normally, that we know has been around since 2022, but at a higher level than normal. So again, two separate signals about something going on in two different parts of the world.
And what do you know about the state of things in Nova Scotia?
Right. So we've been lucky in Nova Scotia so far, both in the 2022 outbreak and recently we've had minimal cases. And so our total count for Nova Scotia has been a total of 3 cases. We haven't had a case here in province since 2023. So there's nothing here currently that I'm aware of, either from something related to Toronto or the situation that we're seeing in Africa right now.
And how does Nova Scotia Health monitor for the virus?
Right, so there's a few different ways. One is we ask anybody who's suspecting that they're seeing a patient who has any Mpox symptoms to call us right away. So it's a notifiable disease, and that means we try to get that early signal if anything is happening in the community. We also set it up through our lab system. And so we've got, call it a robust surveillance system, where if anything is detected like an Mpox virus, we get that indication as well. And then what we do is we reach out to folks, we have conversations with them, try to get a sense of where did this come from? Where is it going? Who might you have been in contact with to get a sense of where exactly this came from? But again, it forms part of a routine surveillance system that is operating all the time.
We're hearing today of evidence of detection in wastewater in Newfoundland. How concerned are you about that?
Yeah, wastewater surveillance is useful, and it always has to be interpreted cautiously, because what it's picking up on is a signal of something that may be in a water supply. Sometimes the signals are weak, they may not be accurate, and sometimes they're just indicating someone who has stopped by. So for example, I don't know the details in Newfoundland, but certainly in the summertime when people are traveling through high tourist areas, it could be plausible that someone had stopped by for a bit in a city, and that was picked up. Now, we haven't seen that this summer at all in Nova Scotia, but again, you interpret them with cautious. They're important surveillance indications, but again, what we're really looking for is those folks to hopefully be diagnosed with actual lab testing. So there's none of that as far as I know in either Newfoundland and certainly none in Nova Scotia.
And so at what point do you recommend people get vaccinated, and can you even get vaccinated here in Nova Scotia?
Yeah, so this is, I think, the most important question right now, because people are going to be hearing discussions around vaccines and wondering who's eligible. And so since 2023, this has been available for something through something called a high order process in Nova Scotia. And it means that any Nova Scotia who's eligible for vaccine can reach out to a provider. That might be your family doctor, a nurse practitioner, a pharmacist, whoever normally orders vaccine for you. You can reach out if you're eligible for this. And it's really targeted right now to people who are most at risk. So it's not something that every Nova Scotian needs, and that's because not every Nova Scotian is thought to be at high risk right now. I think the ones who are most at risk right now, we've seen through the outbreak through 2022, is people who belong to the group of gay, bisexual, and other men who have sex with men. It's a broad category, though. So what I'd say is that if anybody wonders if they're part of that, go online or talk to a vaccine provider and see if you're eligible for it. The vaccine series, to be clear, is a 2-dose series, need to be given 28 days apart from each other. And what we're asking is people who might be eligible to show up for that. We did offer, it's the same vaccine we did offer in 2022 when we were holding our clinics here in Nova Scotia. And the community was phenomenal. I think people at risk recognized it, were sharing word. People were showing up by the hundreds to get the vaccine. We know some people need to complete that series. Some people still need to start it. And so my encouragement is if you're listening and you're wondering if you're eligible, check out the criteria. And if you are and you need it, again, reach out to your vaccine provider. They're more than happy to connect you with them.
Yeah, some really good information there, Dr. Kanzier. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Coming up, ceasefire talks. Mediators working on a deal in the Middle East say 2 days of negotiations have wrapped up. Welcome back. Residents of Jasper, Alberta are returning home today for the first time since a massive wildfire tore through the town site more than 3 weeks ago. It destroyed about a third of the community, mostly homes. But as Sam Sampson reports, that doesn't necessarily mean the people can stay.
A few dozen vehicles lined up very early this morning at this national park gate to make that journey home. As of Friday, only residents are allowed back into Jasper. There have been bus tours to allow homeowners to see the damage, but this is the first time they can go into their houses and wander around town, a moment that comes with some anxiety.
It's been 3 weeks to try to digest what it's going to look like and how it's going to be. And like I said, I mean, I'm one of the fortunate ones that seems to still have a house. But there's a lot of people in this town that have completely lost everything. And so we're ready to come back and, you know, get our lives together, but also to help the whole community.
A wildfire at the end of July destroyed a third of the town's buildings. Fire danger and other hazards kept residents from returning, and Friday was their first chance to get up close to the destruction.
I am at my laundry, where it used to be, at least, if you could see behind me.
Yeah, we
it's all a bunch of, it's a pile of rubble right now. Entering Jasper has been really emotional for me when, you know, it feels to be home, but it feels a little different.
Even though residents can come back, not everyone will stay. People with health conditions and even those who are pregnant are encouraged not to live in Jasper until the hospital is back at full capacity. And the municipality says if residents want to stay, they need to bring at least 3 days worth of supplies like food and water. There are so many things homeowners need to think about, even if their house is still standing.
That's things like putting the fridges out and taping those up and putting them to the curb. We don't want people to do that until they've chatted with their insurance companies to make sure that they're covered for any of the losses that might occur. Then after that, they're likely looking at cleaning. You know, there'll be smoke impacts and damage.
There's no timeline for visitors to come back to Jasper. It's a major part of rebuilding and getting back to normal, especially for a community that relies so heavily on tourism. But for now, the municipality says the focus is on those who live in Jasper and helping them come to terms with this new reality. Sam Sampson, CBC News, Jasper National Park.
Air quality advisories are in effect across large parts of the country due to wildfire smoke. Cities across the prairies are being blanketed by thick smoke from fires in Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba. Air quality in Calgary, Edmonton, Regina, and Saskatchewan is ranked at very high risk. And beyond that, smoke is also impacting parts of BC, Ontario, and Quebec. Environment Canada is suggesting people living in the most affected areas to limit their time outdoors and, while indoors, keep windows and doors closed as much as possible to protect against the smoke. Fine particles in wildfire smoke pose the main risk to people's health. Less than a week after being swamped by the remnants of Tropical Storm Debbie, a large section of Montreal has been flooded by a major water main break. A geyser of water shot into the air for nearly an hour this morning, flooding streets near the Jacques Cartier Bridge. It started just before 6 a.m. when a 2-meter water pipe ruptured. Several major roads have been closed, numerous bus routes have been shut down, and the morning commute was a washout. About 100 homes have been flooded, and power had to be turned off in the area. Much of the city's east end is under a boil water advisory. Most infrastructure across the country is the responsibility of municipalities, and today's water main break in Montreal is not unique. As the city dries itself out, many experts say there's plenty of blame to go around, and failures like this are bound to get worse. The CBC's Rafi Boudjikanian reports.
In Montreal, this is fast becoming a case of déjà vu. This flooding was just from the remnants of last week's tropical storm Debbie.
The city said it's not responsible for sewer water. And again, look, my garage door is broken.
And the flash flood flashbacks are hardly limited to Quebec. This was Calgary in June after, yes, a water main break, one that led to drinking water restrictions for weeks. This was Toronto just last month.
We're sort of just barely looking beyond our nose. We need to look more holistic. We need to collect data.
This engineer says it's hard for Canadian cities to know what needs fixing when there's little sense of what exists. It's been 3 years since the federal government announced it's doing a nationwide survey of infrastructure in this country.
I believe that good data and good information and a coherent vision cannot help but result in better infrastructure decisions and better public policy decisions in general.
Cities say what they want is the money to fix things, recommending a $2.6 billion increase from Ottawa in direct annual transfers to municipalities.
With the unprecedented growth we're seeing, federal and provincial governments' revenues are continuously climbing through income tax and through sales tax, and municipalities are our costs are continuing to rise, and we don't have the source of revenue to continue with that.
But for some observers, the work of putting in new water pipes or even other amenities like public transport require not just money, but time.
These are long-term things, and political cycles are shorter. So I think it's hard for politicians to be able to commit beyond their own mandate, beyond their own term. And these are often 5, 8, 10, 20-year commitments. So that's why I think it's important that we collectively embrace this responsibility, recognize it's actually beyond politics.
The federal government says it's already kicking in $2.4 billion for cities, and that does not include billions more for housing and public transport. As for that national infrastructure assessment announced in 2021, Ottawa says it's still on the way, but it has yet to strike the advisory body that will develop the plan. Rafi Bujikani on CBC News, Ottawa.
2 days of talks aimed at reaching a Gaza ceasefire and the return of Israeli hostages have wrapped up. Negotiators from the U.S., Egypt, and Qatar plan to reconvene in Cairo next week. They say the meetings in Doha were constructive and positive, but Hamas, which was not directly involved in the talks, says this version of a deal is different from what is agreed to last month. The CBC's Anna Cunningham has the latest.
The Reuters news agency is quoting one unnamed senior Hamas official as telling it that what the group was briefed on does not commit to what was agreed upon on July the 2nd. What is clear, though, is that diplomatic pressure for a ceasefire in Gaza is intensifying. It's understood that the US Secretary of State Antony Blinken will again meet with the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu early next week in another regional visit. And earlier today, the foreign ministers of Britain and France issued a joint statement after meeting with their Israeli counterparts.
But as we head now to 315 days of war, the time for a deal, for those hostages to be returned, for aid to get in the quantities that are necessary in Gaza, and for the fighting to stop is now.
In the Palestinian village of Jeet, near the town of Nablus in the West Bank, there was an attack by Israeli settlers on Thursday night. The Palestinian Health Ministry saying at least one person was killed. And in Gaza itself, health officials there saying at least 6 Palestinians were killed on Thursday in an Israeli airstrike on a house in Jabalia. In central and southern Gaza, the Israeli army has once again ordered the evacuation of areas previously designated as humanitarian safe zones, saying Hamas was using the area to fire mortars and rockets towards Israel. Anna Cunningham, CBC News, London.
Australian breakdancer Rachel Gunn is speaking out. She was the subject of ridicule after her performance in Paris received 0 points from the judges. Gunn and the Australian Olympic Committee are calling for kindness and an end to widespread misinformation about her. Susanna De Silva has that story.
What we got, Ray Gunn?
It was an Olympic performance that got the internet going faster than a 100-meter sprint, with no shortage of comments and memes, even real-life creations.
Where's that music coming from?
And late-night impersonations.
Wow, Ray.
And while some found joy in it all, something else came just as quickly.
I didn't realize that that would also open the door to so much hate, which has frankly been pretty devastating.
Australia's Rachel Gunn has now spoken out, appreciative of the support she has received and calling out what she says is misinformation.
Well, I went out there and I had fun. I did take it very seriously. I worked my butt off preparing for the Olympics.
An online petition gathered more than 50,000 signatures questioning her selection and calling for an investigation, forcing the Australian Olympic Committee to release a statement calling it vexatious, misleading, and bullying, adding it has stirred up public hatred without any factual basis. It then lays out how she qualified through what it says were fair and independent events.
If you break, you know that Ray Gunn knows what she's doing.
Toronto breakdancer or b-boy Switch B provided the commentary on the competition for CBC. He says breaking culture isn't as strong in places like Australia, but insists her performance was much more than a handful of snippets turned into memes.
But Ray Gun's a B-girl. You know what I mean? And no one can ever take that away from her. And a lot of the people at home that are talking in the comment section, if they had to battle her, they would get roasted. They would get smoked, for real.
The petition against her appears to have been taken down, while Gunn has asked for privacy while on vacation with her family, promising to speak more when she gets back. Susanna De Silva, CBC News, Vancouver.
You're not going to be with us next week, and maybe you deserve a little time off, a rest day, up a little bit. And
yeah,
it's been busy in the weather center.
Although I was thinking I was going to have to postpone the vacation.
Yeah, because of Ernesto.
Because of Ernesto, yeah. But thankfully, no. It looks like we'll be able to take some time off next week, which is great. And yeah, Jay and Tina both in next week. So have a look at our viewer picture of the day, and have a look at this. Well, boy, lovely shot if you're thinking about, something to do this weekend. Maybe head into the valley and check out the sunflowers.
They've been getting lots of sun, haven't they?
Yeah. Thanks to Patty Craig. Great summer, really, because they've been getting sun and lots of moisture,
that's
right?
true.
So thanks to Patty for sharing. Ryan's picks at cbc.ca, and I'm guessing the mailbag will be nice and full by the time I come back. Here's the forecast for Saturday, looking beautiful. Note temps will be a bit cooler along both the Fundy coastline, places like Halls Harbor, Digby, Yarmouth, and then up the Atlantic coastline. But it will be lovely inland, and even lovely along the coast if you're looking for temps just a bit cooler there. And then for Sunday, notably it will be cooler and clouding up as we see the building clouds moving in ahead of Ernesto. So there are those showers that are moving out or fading away for tonight. High pressure dominating tomorrow. And then, that cloud's starting to edge its way in on Sunday. Still some disagreements on just how much cloud will be in the mix, but it looks like we'll see some sunny periods even into the afternoon. And there's Ernesto. And as I've been talking about tonight, looking at that band of green ahead of the storm itself, that could track in on Monday, as you see with this particular model. It's more bullish than others, but that could bring us some rain and heavier downpours at times on Monday, although it's looking like it's not going to be a big threat to us, as again, the center of the system still well to the south with that latest hurricane track, Tom.
All right, Ryan, thank you so much for that. Well, a recent kayaking trip quickly turned into a rescue mission for two sisters in BC. The pair spotted two humpback whales off the coast of Vancouver Island. They were tangled together in a prawn trap. The kayakers say they heard the whales trumpeting, which is a sign of distress, so they called Fisheries and Oceans Canada for some help.
The mission proved complex and delicate, taking about 5 hours in total to complete. The team says it was elated when the operation turned out to be a success. The whales are no doubt feeling much happier too.
Bet they are. All right, that's it for us tonight. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.
Have a great weekend.